This is lesson 9.2, area of triangles. So here's our warm-up. As we know, I want you guys to find the area of this. I want you to find the area of this rectangle. Who can tell me the area of this figure right here? Anita? 63. Excellent job. Now I want you to find the area of the shaded portion. Right now, all I've done is cut it in half. So I want you to find the area of the shaded portion. Would anyone like to guess what the area of the shaded portion might be, Rocco? He thinks that it's going to still be 63, even though we're just talking about this portion, and the whole thing was 63. Romario? 31.5. Do people agree? Yeah, exactly. Because what we did is we cut that in half. We cut that 63 in half, and so we're left with the other half. We cut 63 in half, and we get 31.5. Now, the area of a triangle is 1/2 of the product of the base and its height. So exactly what Romario did, exactly what a lot of you guys did. What it is it's base times height, but then we divide it into two parts. And that goes for every triangle, not just triangles that happen to perfectly look like they were half of a square or a rectangle or anything. As we can see, this triangle right here, that doesn't make a nice half of anything, but it still fits. It is always going to be 1/2 base times height. So everyone should know that, 1/2 base times height. And additionally, I want you to write down that congruent figures are the same shape and size. So if they're congruent, it means that they're equal. So previously, with all parallelograms, aka a four-sided shape in which the sides are parallel, a square, a rectangle, or quite simply, I believe it's just called a parallelogram, all of those have all been base times height. But triangle has now introduced us to 1/2 base times height, or base times height over 2. Same exact thing. We've already dealt with that. So what would the area of this shape be? What would the area of this one be, Daniel? It would be 12, exactly. We find that the area would be 4 times 6, which is 24, but we half it, which is 12. Now, same rules here apply when we're doing our parallelograms, when we're doing all of that. When we form the sides that we pick, they must form a 90-degree angle. So I can't just pick my height based on any old thing. If I had this being 7 and the bottom being 12.1, I can't multiply those two because it does not form a 90-degree angle. So it always must form a 90-degree angle. I want you guys to tell me the area of this shape. So with our triangles, we know it's 1/2 base times height. Our base is 12.1, our height is 6.4. So it's 1/2 of 12.1 times 6.4. When we're multiplying decimals, do we line up the decimals? What is the rule when we multiply decimals? Rocco? No. Only when we add and subtract do they have to be in line. So what do we do, Daniel? All the way to the right. Sometimes they happen to line up, like in this case, but when you multiply, you always put the numbers all the way to the right. So now we're going to multiply, and I'm going to move them back in a bit. So we multiply. 4 times 1, we get 4. 4 times 2, we get 8. 4 times 1, we get 4. Magic 0. 6 times 1, we get 6. 6 times 2, we get 12. 6 times 1, we get 6. We add that 7. We now get a 4. 4, we add that here. We get a 7 and a 7. And here's my decimal. But is that my answer?
No.
No. What do I still have to do to it, Hannah? Excellent. I still have that half there, so I got to divide it by half. And what did you get when you divided it by half?
I have 38 point something, but it's not like functioning.
38.72. So when we divide it in half, we're going to get 38.72. Let's just check our math because that's what the book says. We do this, it goes in 3, 6, 1. It goes in 8, which is 16. It goes in 7, and then it goes in 2. Exactly. Now, here's another way I could have done this problem, by the way. I was hearing Ben say, wait, can't you just do half of 12.1? Yeah, but I'd pick to do half of a different one. All of these mean being multiplied. We're multiplying 1/2 by 12.1 by 6.4. So I could do that in any order. Can't I do 12.1 times 1/2 times 6.4? It's multiplication. I can do it in the same order, or in any order, just like we learned with our properties. So the easiest thing that I like to do is I'll pick one that's even, and I'll just go ahead and already divide that by 2. So 6.4, that's even. I'm going to get rid of my 1/2 and my 6.4, and I'm just going to divide them out. So it becomes 12.1 and half of 6.4, which is 3.2. Then I skip that end step of dividing it all. I just have my 12.1 times 3.2. I do my math. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. Magic 0. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 1. We get here our 2, 7, 8, 3. We move our decimal over, and it is that same answer we got last time. So there are multiple ways to go about this. Neither way is wrong. Sometimes you might not have been given 2 even ones. We might have been given 6.5, in which case this would not have worked so nicely. So, like our earlier one, we have this where we had 1/2 of the 6 times base. I want you to figure this out, our missing side. We know our area is 24, and we know our area is half of our base times height. And we have our height. Our height is 6. But what's our base? So Daniel, you got 8. Now, how did you get 8 when you did this?
Because 6 times 8 is 48, and then divided by 2 is 24.
Perfect. That's a lot of great abstract reasoning, too. So he worked through it backwards where he knew all of that. 48 divided by 2 is 24, so he was looking for twice of that. Exactly. Now let's see what it would look like if we showed our work like earlier. So we want to isolate that variable. We want to get it down to a b equals. So here we've got 1/2 times 6. Once again, there's 2 ways we can go about it. I'm just going to show you the way that looks the one we're most used to. So we've got 1/2. We're going to multiply each side by 2 to cancel that out. Multiply it by 2 to cancel it out. So then that 1/2 goes away, and the 24 becomes 48 is equal to 6b. Then I divide it by 6, and I get 8 equals b. Great. That's the way we're used to seeing it. We're getting rid of things. However, we could also get rid of something at the same time, just like I mentioned before. Here, this is 1/2 times 6. What's 1/2 times 6, Elsie? 3. So I get 24 equals 3b. In that case, I just divide by 3, and I get 8 equals b. So there's numerous ways you can go about it. The important thing to know is because it's multiplication, you don't have to follow a specific order. With our PEMDAS, all it means is that we do all of a certain activity at one point. All of what's in the parentheses, all of the exponents, all of that from left to right. Multiplication, have at it. So I want us to look at page 675, A, B, C, and D, and the guided practice 1 through 5. Andrew, so we're looking at the area for A. Let's look at the sides. How long is this side right there? Perfect, so it's 6. And what about this one, the height? How much is that? 3. So I'm going to find 1/2 of my base times my height. So if my base is 6 and my height is 3, what's 6 times 3?
12.
So we get 18. But we know we have to divide it by 2, which means our true answer is 9. Excellent. What about for B? For B, Diana, what did you get?
So 9 times 7 is 63. And then I have to do my half.
Yep,
So I got 31.5.
31.5. Excellent, just like our warm-up in the morning. So we divided it in half. We got 9 times 7, but we did 1/2 of our base times our height. Excellent. What about for these ones? These ones we're trying to find the missing portion. So we know our area is 40, but we don't know our base and we know our height. So what did you get for this answer, Romario? You got 5? So, do we agree with him? No. What did you get, Oswaldo? 10. Do we agree with that? Yes. Because as we do, it's 1/2 of base times height. Here, what's 1/2 times 8? What's 1/2 times 8, Hannah? Perfect. Half of 8 is 4. So I'm going to make those go away. And instead, I've got 4 times b equals 40. If we divided each side by 4, we'd get 10 equals b. So our b is 10. Excellent. What about for that last one then, Emerson? 12. Let's see. We got 72 equals 1/2 of base times height. We know that 1/2 times 12 is 6. We divide each side by 6, and we get h equals 12. Excellent. For our guided practice, it goes the same thing. So for this first one, we have 4 and we have 3. So Andrew, what is 4 times 3? 12. We gotta find half of that. We divide it by half. So we get our answer to be 6. It's always 1/2 base times height. Here, 8 times 12. Anita, what is 8 times 12? We get 96. We divide that in half and we get 48. So all of it's 1/2 base times height. Here, this one, it's long and I don't really want to do it, but this one, we're going to do number 4. Area. We get 21 is equal to 1/2 of our base times 6. Remember my trick. I always like to try to cancel out that half with anything that I can. It makes it easy. So 1/2 times 6. What is 1/2 times 6 then, Liam? Perfect. So 1/2 of 6 becomes 3. And 3 times something equals 21. We'll divide each side by 3, even though I know we're super big brain and can do it in our head. We get 7 equals b. And in this case up here, I just don't feel like doing it. It's too much. But what we would know is that it would be 1/2 of 11.25 times 15.6. And then we'll divide it by 2, and we'll get a number. Excellent. So our homework is page 677. And 1 through 7A. So it's just 1 through 7A. You don't have to do the rest. Just 1 through 7A.